there's stories of when he was a kid and everything, when he
He
like
broke
him and
his arm, and he's shot. That's why his shot's so lethal, because he shot himself how to shoot with one
literally,
hand.
yes. Welcome back to another episode, you beauties. I'm Zach, joined by Preston. It's been a couple weeks since we've been in person, but we're here. How was your Christmas today?
It was great.
Did I just say today? How was your Christmas earlier this week?
It was great. Yeah. It was nice getting some time off of work and just kind of relax. I always appreciate about the holidays. You just get some time just to relax.
Yeah.
Like everything slows down for a minute. Especially so busy this time of year, just with 2 holidays back to back like that. Yeah. I had a family coming in from out of town, so it's nice just to take a couple of days just to decompress and reset. And I got some nice gifts. I think the highlight this year is probably I got a Screaming Eagle Ovechkin jersey. It's freaking beautiful. I thought about wearing it over today, but I didn't end up doing it. It's beautiful jersey. How was yours, Zach?
That was sick. Oh, it was good. Didn't really do too much running around. Did last minute Christmas shopping, but went over to my grandma's for breakfast and everything. Kind of relaxed. I took the 2 days off from working on the podcast and writing for the hockey writers, and I really made it like a mental reset too, like you said. All in all, food was great. Ate like 6,000 calories between 2 days. So
I always say to myself, like, you're legally allowed to overeat on holidays.
that's what I told myself. The next day, I wanted to.
Oh yeah, I knew I was eating like shit on Christmas. Like we had French toast for breakfast and stuff. I was like, I put syrup on it. I was like, this is awful for me.
It's like, but hey, you're allowed to enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
right? Especially for a big holiday like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So you would be speaking of the Eagle jersey that you got. You want to talk about Ovi being back tonight, a month removed from
That's
breaking
crazy.
his fibula? Is crazy.
Well, it wasn't a complete break, was it? Was it like a hairline fracture?
Something like that.
I mean, it's so crazy how fast he recovered, but if people were doubting how bad Ovi wants it still, I think you could put those concerns to rest, because dude wants it. And especially, the Capitals are good this year, and they have a legit chance to win another cup this year, I think, with Ovi. And I think he sees that this might be his last really great opportunity to not only break the record, but do have a meaningful playoff run. He's 39 years old. He's not going to get many more of these chances.
27 goals to get in 50-something games it is.
I think he could do it.
Especially the tear he was on before he went out with the injury.
It might take a couple games for him to get back in the swing of things, but...
Especially with it being a major leg injury.
Yeah.
He's going to have to get his game speed back up and everything like that. I'm excited to see the race again. It sucks that it happened right.
I think he would have been. He definitely would have broke it this year if he didn't get hurt. The way he was playing, he was hot.
He was on fire.
Yeah.
And props to Dylan Strome too for hanging. Dylan Strome did a great
He's
job.
legit. I mean, I think I talked about him in the offseason as a player to watch. I think he was a really underrated player last year. He took a big step, and people wanted to see if he could do it again. And he's having a better year this year than last year. So I think he's proven. It took him a few years, but I think he's finally proving that he can be a 1C in the NHL.
It's crazy because Dylan Strome went on a podcast. I'm sorry, I forgot what podcast it was. It was just a TikTok clip. And Dylan Strome ended up saying that when Chicago didn't end up qualifying him, so whatever, his contract.
That was
rights
still.
somebody else.
I can't believe they did that.
There was one team. I don't know if you know the team, but there was one team that offered him a 1-year deal, and Dylan Strome put in the most work he's ever put in his life to prove that he belongs in the NHL. And now he's a borderline star player in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a no-brainer for the I think because he had a lot of teams interested in him.
Yeah.
When the Blackhawks let him walk to UFA, and I think the Capitals, they needed a young player desperately, because ever since they won that cup, that's been their issue, is they've been too old and too slow to keep up. And Dylan Strome gave them some much-needed youth and helped to re-energize that lineup, I think. And I think he saw the opportunities. Like, look, I can go play with Ovechkin. Backstrom was still playing at the time. Oshie, John Carlson. I think they had Braden Holtby still. They might have. I'm not sure. It might have been his last year in Washington.
Yeah, Holtby's last year in Washington, I think was the 2021 year or 20.
Yeah, I don't know if Strome. I don't know. I think this is Strome's third year on the Caps.
Yeah.
Because after the first year, he signed a long-term deal, 5-year contract. But I think he saw the opportunity to play with some some respected legends, and hey, if I can't stick around here, I don't belong. And I think it was a good opportunity for him and the Capitals, and I think they're both been rewarded for it.
I was skeptical of the Capitals without Ovechkin. I was like, Ovechkin seems to be carrying them. The Capitals have stayed afloat plus some more without him in the lineup the past 5 weeks, and I found it impressive. We talked about Dylan Strome. Connor McMichael has been great. Their goaltending tandem has been great.
Pierre-Luc Dubois has actually been playing pretty solidly,
He's having a
too.
bounce back season. I don't know if he'll ever be worth that contract, but at this point, fuck the contract. Who cares? It's about getting your career back on track to that former top 5 overall.
He was the
pick?
third overall pick in the
overall
2015 draft.
Yes.
Behind only two guys drafted before him were Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel.
Who was drafted after him?
Mitch Marner. I mean, in his defense, that was an extremely stacked draft class.
But also, I think PLD coming into his draft year was putting up insane numbers too.
He was the third overall pick in his draft.
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about
Yeah,
Strome?
2015.
Are you talking about Strome?
PLD.
Oh,
you were talking about Strome?
But they were both third overall picks in their draft,
Yeah,
though. Okay,
yeah,
I guess
okay.
that worked out. Yeah, because I think what was
Fuck.
PLD 2017, 2018?
I was like,
I think he was the Jack Hughes draft.
I was
want to say.
wondering why. I was like, there's no way PLD's that old.
No, let me look up see what he got drafted.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the third over. He was a surprise when the Blue Jackets picked
Yeah.
him.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember watching that draft and like they announced the pick and even the analyst. I didn't know who the guy was, and the analysts were like, "Well, this is like off the board pick. Let's see how this turns out." Because he did have a really good year going into juniors. Let me try to pull up.
I
that
mean, I
draft
thought he
class.
would be okay in Columbus too. Like, not.
It was the Austin Matthews draft.
Okay.
I mean, looking after that, it's not a bad pick. Like just looking at this
who's taken
first round
after?
pick. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk was picked at 6. I think if you redo that draft, he's probably the second pick in that draft behind
Yeah,
Matthews.
easily.
Clayton Keller, 7th overall pick. Charlie McAvoy, 14.
I feel
Jacob
like-
Chikrin was a 16th pick. Not the greatest draft. Tage Thompson, 26th pick. Like some good players in the first round, but not. This wasn't exactly a super strong draft class.
When it comes to like bona fide names in the 2016 draft class, it's so top heavy. Like you have Austin Matthews, Tkachuk, Tage, McAvoy. I know I'm missing some Clayton Keller.
Well, just looking at the other guys in the top 10 in this draft, though, like that was a good pick because 4th pick was Jesse Puljujarvi, 5th pick was Oli Ulevi. I don't even know if he ever played in the NHL. Alex Nylander and Tyson Jost were all top 10 picks, and those aren't good picks.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of it's not like the 2015 draft where it's completely stacked and you're running into a Dylan Strome situation. No, and Dylan Strome in 2015 that pick of Strome was justified by the Coyotes. He was now I get it comes with playing with Connor McDavid,
But the Coyotes messed up his development really bad.
oh, I mean, they messed up pretty much everybody's development back then.
Like, I think they wanted him to play in the NHL right away, and he wasn't ready. He went back to juniors, and I think he went right back up to the NHL, and he wasn't ready. They should have gave him some time in the NHL, the AHL, to let him develop, which is a point I'm going to make later when we talk about a different team. But
Oh my god.
you can never. I was listening to, I think it was the Steve Dangle podcast. I don't remember what it was. No, it was Jeff Merrick. It was on a Morning Cup of Hockey on Daily Faceoff. And Jeff Merrick was making the point of you can never let a player play in the AHL for too long.
That's an interesting point.
Because especially with these young players, like what's going to hurt them from playing? I think the point he was trying to make is you'll do more damage to a player's development from having him play in a year in the NHL when he's not ready to having him play in the AHL where he's too good for the AHL.
We've seen it happen numerous times. Obviously, Dylan Strome is one case of that.
I mean, the Sabres are do it all the time with their prospects.
The Sabres do it. They almost did it with Casey Middlestad. Almost. He resurrected his career somewhat.
I mean, I think this is kind of an old school example, but I think the perfect example of this with the Sabres is Mikhail Grigorenko. He was a first round draft pick. I think it was like the 2013, 2014 draft.
It was
2012. It was 2012.
Okay.
And he started in the NHL. He looked awful. They sent him back down to juniors, and he was okay. And then he kept bouncing up between AHL and Buffalo, AHL Buffalo, and he should have just been in Rochester for like 3 years. And he ended up having a couple of decent years in Colorado after he got traded, but I feel like that was such wasted potential because
was he a part of that
Ryan O'Reilly trade? Yeah, him and Zadorov went over to Colorado. When in hindsight, that's not really a bad trade.
I mean,
It's
Colorado was banking on Grigorenko's.
Well, they also got JT Comfort, which he was a big part of them winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Do you want to go over to the other guy that you were mentioning about?
Oh, the other
The
team?
development thing?
I think a perfect example of this is kind of in Detroit right now with the Red Wings. I think a lot of Detroit fans are really angry, justifiably so. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs in how many years now? I mean,
7, 8 since 2016?
it's been a minute.
No, it's been
It's been a while.
I'm gonna check that real quick.
And I know fans are probably getting really sick of like, oh, we got to trust the Yzer plan. We got to trust the Yzer plan. Detroit looks really bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
They just got blown out last night by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I feel it was 5-1 to 6-1.
McClellan's first game as head coach. After
Not a good
Lalonde
look.
Fired.
And I think a big culprit of that with Detroit is I think they have a little too many veterans in their lineup, especially at that blue line, like outside of Mo Seider and was it Edvinsson?
Yeah,
Like,
Edvinson's great.
Their blue line is horrible. It's all old, overpaid veterans like Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, I believe, is still playing. Justin Hall.
Justin Hall.
Yeah, like that blue line is genuinely awful, and so is their goaltending has been pretty bad too. But that blue line, Eric Gustafsson, I don't even know who Albert Johansson is. He's a 20 younger player, but
Yeah.
just looking at like the vets on this blue line, they're not very good. I mean, I think Mo Seider's a beast. Simon Edvinsson has a very bright future. Like look at their forward group. They're trying to get the right mix of veterans and young players. But the thing that Yzerman is sticking to his guns is he's not rushing anybody. Mm-hmm. And I hate to keep saying you got to trust the Yzer plan, but that gets back to my point, like what Jeff Merrick made when he was on that podcast, where there's no such thing as too much development. And I mean, Detroit's not a playoff team this year. I think that's pretty evident.
Yeah.
They're kind of in that same boat with the Sabres right now where, last year they barely missed the playoffs. They were a really fun team to watch, could score 1 million goals. Didn't really have good defense, but they were always in games because they were so electric offensively. And this year they have expectations, and they're crumbling under those expectations.
They're tied for last place in the East with the Sabres at 30 points.
Yeah. And you look at the Detroit farm system, they have a lot of really good young players. Just none of them are in the NHL right now. I mean, you have, Lucas Raymond has developed into a good NHL player, like I'd say borderline elite. Mo Seider. I mean, I remember when they drafted him, everyone was shocked. When they drafted him, he ends up winning Rookie of the Year.
He's turned into a great defenseman for him, and now he finally has a competent partner in Simon Edvinsson he's playing with.
Yeah, they should be fun to watch for a long time, both young guys. But I know they need a goalie. They have Sebastian Kalsa coming up the pipeline. That's another goal. You do not want to rush goalies.
No, was there a reason why he was up on the roster for
injuries and Philly Husso's unplayable.
Yeah, at this point, I want to go.
That dude had a historic fall off. That's insane.
He had a good 2022 playoff run and held the Blues in that second round series against Colorado for whatever. And then signed a contract.
He wasn't that bad in his first year in Detroit, but now he might never play in the NHL again.
He got sent down, right?
Again, for the second time, because I think he came back. He played 6 games and he lost all. He was horrible in all of them.
I want to go to Detroit's playoff history and everything. The last time they made the playoffs was 2016. The last time they made it out of the first round was 2013.
I think the last time they made the playoffs, I think is when they still had Datsuk and Zetterberg too. That was
one of their last years.
They were trying to get the streak, because they had Detroit was a historically great franchise.
They had
for
a
long
fall
time.
off from 2016 was the last year. Like I said, they had 41 wins. 2017 they had 33 wins, and the last time outside of last season when they had 41 wins, they haven't broke 35 wins. And that was in 2023. And the thing that gets me, I know you compare Detroit and Buffalo together, and we see Ottawa's taking that next step with the
maybe it's their turn to miss the playoffs by a point.
2022 was Sabres.
Those teams have kind of been lumped together for a long time.
Last year was Detroit, and now this year's Ottawa. I don't know.
I think Ottawa is better than those Detroit and Buffalo teams that barely missed the playoffs. I think they're a more complete team.
If Ottawa made the playoffs, it wouldn't really shock me at this point.
Yeah, no, Ullmark is going to will them to a playoff spot. And
yes.
I think, and like we've talked about this before with Ottawa's, having a goalie you can trust makes a world of difference.
They look like they're playing better hockey.
I think that's part of Detroit's biggest problem right now is their goaltending has been a liability. And when you can score a lot, but when you don't have the goaltending and the forwards know their defense isn't great, and you don't want to make mistakes. Like, you're playing uptight, you're not having fun, you're worried about making mistakes, and that costs you in the long run. When you have a team like Ottawa who had struggled with that too, they haven't had good goaltending. Last year they probably had one of the worst goaltending tandems, if not the worst in the league last year.
Probably the bottom three, I'll say, for sure.
Yeah, it was
bottom three.
Both their goalies were awful, and now you have Linus Ullmark, who's been amazing for them. And you get to see that the confidence starting to shine through the rest of the players. They're playing loose, they're having more fun, and they're willing to take more chances. And yeah, sometimes you're gonna make a mistake, and a puck's gonna end up in the back of the net. But you gotta learn to take those chances.
I think that's what Travis Green is teaching the boys in Ottawa. Is trust your goaltender. I know Allmark right now is day-to-day with an injury, so he'll be back in like a week or two max. But if you make a mistake, you move on, right? You're in the NHL for a reason. We see it so much with young teams where they're so afraid to make mistakes, they just keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. So that's what you have to avoid, because instead of being afraid to make a mistake, if you play to win and play loose and you make a mistake, you eventually will learn from it, right? So I think that's the big thing with Ottawa. And I in the Eastern Conference race, like, Ottawa right now is my second wildcard team. I think they'll stay there unless they have a ridiculous collapse. Because
I think Ottawa's really benefiting too from the Rangers having like a complete fall off.
Yeah.
I still don't know what's wrong with this team. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, on paper, the Rangers should be a lot better than their record. I mean, they're 16-17. Like, they're not good right now.
The one thing that Ottawa has over every team below them right now, outside of the Rangers, is goaltending. They're Pittsburgh and Columbus, I don't think it's going to hang in there much longer.
Philadelphia
Same thing with maybe
doesn't have
Philly.
Philly doesn't have great goaltending either. I mean, it's still shocking how close this Eastern Conference race is, considering like how bad the Sabres have been.
Dude, how bad the Sabres and Red Wings are only 8 points out.
Yeah, that's
right
what
now.
I'm saying. Is like, it's kind of insane how close everything still is. And then when you go to the Western Conference, I mean, the Western Conference might have at least the two worst teams in the league. We'll get to one of them a little bit later, because I want to talk a little about one of the teams. But
I mean,
it's kind of
closer.
shocking how mid the Eastern Conference is. Of course, you have like the powerhouses. Like, look at the Metro with New Jersey, Washington, Carolina. New Jersey spanked Carolina yesterday.
Yeah.
Playing again today, back to back, home and home. So we'll see how that game goes. And then you got Toronto, Florida, neck and neck as expected. Boston has been playing better. I believe they got their butts beat by Columbus yesterday.
Yeah. Kind of. Did they get smacked, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 6-1 or something like that. It was not a close game. It's
If-
shocking.
If the Red Wings and Sabres just rattle off another 4 or 5 straight wins, they're back in the not even like 3 wins, they're back in the thick of things. Whereas in the Western Conference, after St. Louis, like Seattle's at 32, they rattle off 3 straight wins, they'll still be in it, I guess. Like,
I mean, they're probably after Seattle, I definitely
It's
draw
a
a
cutoff.
line of teams like your season's over.
like Anaheim's not doing it. Nashville still hasn't turned things around. Therefore,
San Jose, I mean, this is still a rebuilding year for them. And the Blackhawks just straight
Chicago looks horrible.
up. They're dookie. They're bad.
They are, and Connor Bedard's not having a good season either.
No, I was a little concerned about from what I saw to him last night. I was at the Sabres Blackhawks game yesterday, and the Blackhawks looked real bad. I mean, Peter Mrazek didn't really have a great game. His defense in front of him wasn't really doing him many favors. Like, the Blackhawks couldn't even drive play. Like, it took him till the third period to even get double-digit shots on net.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you're in the NHL. Like, they weren't getting the zone. It's not like the Sabres were like shot blocking machines. They just weren't getting the zone possession time.
Dude, I ended up watching the first and second period at work because I ended up working till 9. The first period especially, I think shots were like 12-2 or something like that.
At the end of the period, I think it was,
Yep.
it was like 12-2.
And the entire period, the Sabres were up 4-0 after the first period. We know all about that. At home too.
When they made it 4-2 in the third, I started getting nervous.
And then Tuck took the penalty too. It was
Yeah.
like, you never know. And then Tuck came out of the box and scored right away. But
that was a bad goal.
that's one you have to have back. Soderblom was way too far in his net.
Yeah, no,
And
he let in a
was
couple
small.
bad ones too. Yeah.
Both the Tuck's goals on him in the third were bad. Like,
I mean, the breakaway wasn't the worst. The one out of the box was bad.
yeah.
Like that was from the behind the net in the corner. Like that net should never go in.
He just threw that on net just to get it on net.
Yeah, I mean they were in the middle of a change. He was by himself. He's like, I'm just gonna throw it on net, and
right. Exactly. I've been preaching that in my articles. Just throw pucks on net. It's not hard.
I agree with you. The Sabres do need to simplify their game,
Yes.
but we're not talking about them right now. We've talked about them enough.
Back over to the Blackhawks, like in the first period, it felt like they were in the defensive zone the entire time. And if they weren't in the defensive zone, the puck was in the neutral zone in possession of the Sabres. Or the Blackhawks would dump it in, and then
they were losing like every battle. It didn't even look like they were really putting effort,
Yeah.
and Bedard was kind of getting pushed around. I know there's a lot of pressure on Bedard to be like a generational player because, you know, he was historically good coming out of his draft. They were hyping up like he's the next Connor McDavid. I mean, I don't even think it's an argument to be made that the situation Bedard is going into is astronomically worse than what Connor McDavid walked into at Edmonton. Because Edmonton wasn't like exactly the worst team. They just ran really poorly, and McDavid helped take them out of that. But also had Leon Draisaitl come up with them. They also had Taylor Hall and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, other first overall picks on that team to kind of help McDavid weather the load. I think Taylor Hall was a really big thing for McDavid his rookie year. I mean, Connor Bedard does have Taylor Hall now, but it's not the same Taylor Hall from 2015, 2016. And Bedard doesn't. They had him playing on a line with Bertuzzi and Hall yesterday, but they couldn't get anything going. Like I said, Bedard was getting pushed around. The one thing that I saw at Bedard yesterday that was like, oh, he's not in a good place right now. Was he was in the slot. He was covered pretty well, but they got the puck to him and he took a shot, and he has a ridiculous shot, and he just straight up missed the net, and he kind of just drooped his shoulders. He was like, come on, like. After the shot, he didn't follow up the play, and I was like, he's in his own head right now. Like, I get you're not having the season you want to have, and for most 19-year-olds, if it was any other 19-year-old, the season he's having, they'd be extremely happy with that. I think he has like 20-something assists, 9 goals, which isn't a bad season for most teenagers in the NHL.
So on pace for 70 points.
When you're Connor Bedard, you have higher expectations on yourself. He hates losing. He's probably the most losing he's ever done in his life.
Oh, by far.
And he's not at that point yet in the NHL where he can just take over a game. It takes all of the great players. I think a really good example of that is Jack Hughes in New Jersey. Bedard's played better than Jack Hughes did when Jack Hughes first came into the league. I remember people were calling him a bust, like horrible. I remember when he signed that 8-year contract, everyone was saying, why would you pay this kid? He's done nothing, and now he shut him up right away.
First season, put up 99 points.
Yeah, and now he's like a bona fide superstar. Yeah. I think another good example is Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon, I watched an interesting YouTube video on it the other day. I'm not sure. I think it might have been in a Rob Talks Hockey. I'm not sure if you've seen his stuff before.
I have before, yeah.
He makes pretty good videos. He made a good one today on Elias Pettersson and JT Miller. Kind of why Pettersson's struggling a little bit right now. But, if you look at... Yeah, it was in that video where he talked about Nathan MacKinnon. If you look at McKinnon's first 3 years, like he had a really great rookie year. I think it was around like 50, 60 points. Won Rookie of the Year. And then it's kind of up and down. He never really got past that rookie year mark. And then all of a sudden, his 4th year, he just jumped up to like 80, 90 points. And he's just been getting better ever since then. And, I think it's fair to say that Nathan MacKinnon is a top 3 player in the NHL. Like, I think he's in that conversation with Connor McDavid, like a Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews. Like, he's in that group of players, like that upper echelon of the best in the world. And I think Bedard can definitely be in that conversation. It takes time.
It takes a lot of time. And, like, this is the thing with player development that we touched on earlier. It's like there obviously are guys like Connor Bedard, McDavid, MacKinnon, the guys that you named that can figure it out in the NHL level. I am certain that Connor Bedard will be able to figure it out.
Oh, he definitely belongs in the NHL. I'm not trying to say, like, they need to send him down to the American League and let him, like, dominate there. I don't think that will help him. There's some players, like, I think we talked about this before, like, they could slog it out in the NHL as a teenager because they have that good of hockey IQ. They just need to learn the little things. And then once they pick that up, then they're set.
By the time Connor Bedard is 22, 23, I bet you will see at least a 100-point season by then.
Oh, totally. I mean, he had a great rookie year last year.
Yeah.
He won Rookie of the Year. He had like 70 points.
He was going to put up 82-plus points if he wasn't injured for those 2-3 weeks with the jaw injury.
And he came back from that freakishly fast too.
This is why I told people, dude, Connor Bedard has to stick in the fishbowl. He was nuts when he came back. Like, tell me if I'm wrong. If you guys are still listening or watching, comment. Connor Bedard, go back to a fishbowl, please.
I think Bedard needs. I'm not sure if this is like a coaching thing or just something he needs to work through personally. Is chill out. Like, I get you want to be great. You have these really high expectations of yourself. Because I'm assuming with Connor Bedard and a lot of those elite players, you've been the best player in whatever league you've been in your whole life. You know, ever since you were a kid, you were probably the best kid on your team. Mm-hmm. You get to the NHL, you know how good you are, and there's guys that are going to be better than you or at your level, especially coming in as an 18-year-old. Like Connor McDavid, like I think we would all agree he's the best player in the world right now. Far. And, you know, even his first few years, like he had some figuring out to do, and once it clicked, then he took over the league.
That's all it takes. You just have to unlock something in your head. Like you have all the skill in the world. It's just once you get to the NHL and you're of a caliber like those players that we named off, it's not like sure you can get better at everything. Nobody's perfect at anything, but a lot of it getting to the level is the mental game. Is like you said, the small things, getting better at the little things, winning puck battles, the right positioning. I personally think positioning in the NHL now. I haven't played a high level of hockey.
Positioning is everything, like any level of any kind of really good competitive hockey.
The second you learn how to be in the right spots at the right time, the puck will find your stick. It will.
I think, more important thing in hockey than having like really high puck skills for just an average NHL player. I'm not talking about like elite players, like they have elite puck skills. Is just hockey IQ and awareness of what's going on around you, knowing when to pick up a guy, when to switch with somebody. Like there's a lot going on, and you have to have your head on a swivel and know what's going on and know where you need to be.
Sometimes it's hard to find those guys in the league that can just do all the little things right. Like, not like I know we gush over Austin Matthews and he'll put up 70 goals in his sleep. We talk about McDavid putting up 160 points, but it's about those second and third liners, even some fourth liners that can just do the little things right. Go into the corners in the dirty areas, win the puck battle, make sure their defensive assignment is covered. Be in the offensive zone as like a puck support guy and
but
all
I think
that
like
stuff.
Guys like McDavid and Matthews have learned those things.
Yes.
Like I'd argue like they're both complete players. Like they could do everything.
Like since Austin Matthews came into the league, he's become one of the best two-way centermen in the league.
Yeah, no, and I think the biggest thing for Connor Bedard is I think he needs to get stronger.
Yes.
Like just physically stronger. Because he's getting pushed around. A lot of people forget he's still a teenager. He's 19 years old.
5'10", 160, 170 pounds.
Like, he's still growing.
Yeah.
Like, he was a kid last year.
He's a 19-year-old who most 19-year-olds are in their sophomore year of college. This dude is playing up against
the best players in the world.
Guys who weigh 230 pounds of pure muscle. So,
and I'm confident Bedard will figure it out.
He has a work ethic, too.
Oh, it was funny last night. People were booing him during warm-ups because the buzzer went off for the warm-ups, and he stayed on the ice for like 2 minutes by himself after everybody got off the ice, and they were waiting for him to get off the ice so they could start get the Zambonis out. It was kind of ridiculous. Like he just wouldn't get off. They had to force him to get off the ice.
Was he still skating around shooting?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Like everyone had been off the ice for over a minute and a half, and he shoots, picks it out of the net.
Usually you see some guys like sit there and take a couple extra one-tees.
No, he was still like shooting and stuff.
That's
like
crazy.
I know, like I've read reports like the Blackhawks, like I guess they have like birthday parties at their facility, and they had to tell him to go home because like somebody rented it out to have a birthday party, and he was in there shooting and skating around. Like, dude, you got to go home. Like, we got a birthday party.
I wouldn't doubt if during the off season most of his time is spent either at the rink of some sort, whether it's on the ice or doing off-ice training. That's like just how he comes off. And
get in the gym, man. Bench.
There's stories of when he was a kid and everything, when he
broke his arm and he's shot. That's why his shot's so lethal, because he shot himself how to shoot with one hand.
Yes. And apparently he's never had like any sort of junk food before, or like fast food. I think it was.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean, dude, People don't understand how much of a you cannot have a life between the ages of 15 and 18 and 19.
Oh, if you want to, yeah. I mean, I'd
Because
argue even younger than that because I mean that's why I think some players are starting to go the college route so they can get a little bit of that fun because I mean you're a college student, like you're in class, but you still have practice and stuff, but you can go have friends and do stuff on campus and still have fun.
there was, oh my God, I wish I remember it. Maybe it was Gabe Velarde went on a podcast. I saw a clip. He said between the age of 14 and 18, he was eat, sleep, and drink hockey, and he said that if he wasn't playing hockey or in the weight room 24/7, he wouldn't be in the league right now. That's what it takes. Like you can't rely on talent. Like genuinely, you have to rely on hard work. Like people are like, oh, McDavid's the most talented player at hockey.
Yeah, but I mean, some
it.
of that is just natural talent.
Yeah.
But you still have to work every day.
And I trust me, I'm excited to see Connor Bedard come out and just kill everybody. Like
I still have full confidence he will be a superstar, like perennial 100+ point player every single season. It's just he's not there yet. He's still young. He's still a kid, and that team is horrible.
It's honestly it's twice as bad as McDavid's team when he came into the league.
It's just they got a bunch of nobodies on that team.
At one point, he was playing with Smith and Ryan Donato on a line. Like I just keep him with Bertuzzi and Hall and let them go through. Like you have two vets beside a younger second-year player. Like just let them figure it out and do everything. Because I would trust Bertuzzi and Hall with Connor Bedard 10 times out of a week. Jesus Christ.
I mean, they do have some good players. Like I like Kevin Korchinski. I think he can end up being a good player. Just in the draft, Levzishov.
Levzhinov is great. I mean, he's going to be a star.
They're going to have a top 3 pick in the draft this year, so they need to start. You
know what? If I'm Chicago, if Michael Misa's there at their draft pick, if they don't get first overall, because James Hagan is the first overall pick right now, if Michael Misa's there, let's say they get third, fourth overall, take Michael Misa. Take another center to add with Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will hurt. I mean, having a dynamic duo like that. Yeah, I mean I think right now they're in last place in the NHL, so they're the favorites to win the draft lottery.
20 points right now, absolutely.
They stink. They're bad.
Like some of the passes last night that we both saw with our own eyes. It's like these guys are in the NHL. Like there were some of the most simplest, like from the circle to the point, like they're missing. Like
I mean, I think they just had a bad night last night.
It happens.
Nobody really played well for them last night. I mean, they just had 3 days off for the holiday break.
And apparently, they flew into Buffalo at 6 a.m. and then they got on their plane at 6 a.m. of yesterday of game day. So they're
pretty strict with the rules. I think a team might have actually gotten in trouble. I think I saw the hockey guy posted a video that somebody might have broke the CBA. I think this happened last year with Toronto. I think they accidentally had him get on a flight too early before because they're very strict about that holiday pause.
Strict?
Yeah, nothing.
Because of the holiday roster freeze or whatever.
Yeah, so no, they get in the CBA. It's a mandatory every year at Christmas. They get the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th completely off. They can't even really go to the facility.
So
I think they can only go to the facility for treatment.
So if a game's on the 27th, you can't get on a team flight until
midnight.
Okay, it makes sense. That makes sense.
And I think last year Toronto got fined like $1 million or something by the NHLPA because they boarded the flight too early on December 26th.
Okay, that makes sense then. I
guess
didn't know
Dallas
that was a thing.
I guess Dallas might have violated it yesterday. So.
Okay. Wait, wasn't Dallas home or were they in Minnesota?
I don't know.
Okay.
But they're very, very, very strict about that.
Sticking in the Western Conference in the same division, Mackenzie Blackwood a couple days ago signed a $5.25 million contract extension. That was fast.
That was a little surprising.
They got their goaltender of the future, though. He's played great. He has I think a .920 or .930 save percentage on 4 games played for Colorado. Colorado was confident in their guy. He was great in San Jose, comes over to Colorado. He's been phenomenal. Colorado right now, in my opinion, is on the borderline of being a cup contender. They're not in that tier yet. I want to see it a little bit more, but come the trade deadline, this team's going to be a buyer for sure. They've
I
stuck
mean,
back
they don't
in-
have many assets left to give out.
It doesn't matter. You're still a buyer. Like, you can buy like a fourth liner for all you know, because their depth could
I
definitely
don't know.
use
These
some work.
days, fourth liners are kind of expensive at the
Oh
deadline.
yeah, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth round pick. You know, if you know, you know, guys.
Fuck them picks.
I mean, when you're a team like Chicago, yeah, fuck them picks. I mean, not Chicago.
Chicago,
Colorado.
yeah. You know, Chicago should buy at the
Yeah,
deadline.
fuck it.
Yeah, trade their first round pick for anybody.
Yeah, like a team like Colorado, fuck them picks. Genuinely, like they don't. If their first round picks are gonna be, what, late first rounders, so
Yeah, I mean, and you don't know if Rantanen will be on your team next year or not. So
that's true. They got it. They honestly have to throw him a bag. I know we talked about it on last week's episode with
Jimmy. Yeah,
but like, pay the man.
that will be interesting. That will be one of the big storylines of the offseason is that situation with Rantanen in Colorado to see if they get a deal done or if he just wants to see what he kind of offers he gets in free agency because he will be highly coveted.
Dude, if he tests the market, the NHL this NHL media is gonna go bananas. And I bet you he signs a deal maybe a day or two before free agency. But what are your overall thoughts on this contract? Yes, no, do you want to
I would have waited a little bit. You know, I know he's only played 4 games. I mean, they must be really happy with what they've seen out of him, but I think it was a little premature.
I like it because I love the potential that it has, and
But at least see what you get out of him for like a season. At least like a month or two, not.
so this is
2
something where
weeks.
do it after the first of the year, maybe closer to the deadline. But at that point, though, like if you're Colorado and he's still playing, this can turn into $6-7 million.
But what if he like turns into Georgiev and he's just like ass, and you're stuck with
then you are
horrible
stuck with
contract?
the 5.25 because outside of New Jersey, we haven't seen Blackwood be a number one. Actually, no, sorry, he was in San Jose, whatever. But like that's a different story though because he was getting pelted with shots, so it kind of
inflates your stats a little
just
bit.
a little bit, except goes against average. I mean, I guess technically inflate because it goes up, whatever. But
I don't know, but save percentage of goals against average are very different things because you can have like 40 saves a game, but if you're letting in 3 goals every game because you're getting 40 shots, like your save percentage will be high, but
that's
your
why
goals against average will still be like 3.
it's hard to judge a goalie off of goals against average.
I
Because
think save percentage is a more
Oh,
better way to judge a
it's
goalie.
so much better. It's so much better. I don't know. Maybe you could have waited. This is all going off of what he can be for the team. It's a risk that Colorado's willing to
Yeah,
take.
I understand. Like, you don't want to risk. Like, what if he's a really great fit in your team? You have a really deep playoff run, and he plays at a really high level for you. And then he gets the UFA, and teams are offering like starter money, like $7 million a year. And Colorado's like, well, shit. Do we sign a goalie or do we keep Rantanen?
Right, and now you're stuck with signing a backup goalie to be your starter again. Like that could be.
I get it because they don't want to. They're confident that they got their guy, and they don't want to keep playing like that game of which goalie are we going to take a chance on this year to maybe be the guy we need.
How long have they done this? When was the last?
I mean, they stuck with Georgiev for a few years because they kind of had to because they gave him a contract extension, but he wasn't that bad for them for his first year in Colorado.
He was good.
I mean, Varlamov, I think, was a case where I think they just moved on from him. I think he just – I don't know if they traded him or he left in free agent. I mean, he's been out of Colorado for a while.
It's been since the beginning of the 2010s, right?
No, he played – no, I think he was there with McKinnon still. I'm not sure what led to him leaving. He was a good goalie when he was in Colorado.
Was he in Washington before or after Colorado? Because maybe I'm thinking of when he was on Washington in the early 2010s.
Let me pull him up real quick.
Because I think that was the last goaltender that I guess. I mean, you had Darcy Kemper for what?
He was
year?
okay. It was 2011. He got traded by Washington to the Colorado Avalanche.
How long was he there for?
He was there for. He got drafted in 2006, signed in 2007, got traded in 2011. Then he was signed a 5-year contract. Yeah, he left as a free agent.
Okay, so he left.
Who did they have? They had what's his name? He's in. Philip Grubauer.
Oh, I totally forgot he was on there.
Yeah, because he was their starting goalie for a few years.
Before Seattle
and then Seattle took him the expansion draft, No, they signed him in free agency.
They signed 2022 was it?
Yeah, because it was before
Okay.
and then because they won a cup with Darcy Kemper.
Because I remember they gave him a 3-year contract. Grubauer a 3-year contract.
Yeah, something like that. And Grubauer kept being horrible for them in the playoffs.
I remember
and
that. Okay.
I think they chose to not they just chose not to re-sign him. And
Where is he now? No,
he's still in Seattle.
Okay.
I think he's
He's a backup goalie.
I don't know if he's a
too.
backup or it's like a 1A. I mean, they have Joey Decord, who's pretty good. So.
I think Joey Decord is their number 1 goaltender, unless games played is almost even. But Joey Decord has been great for them.
Yeah, I want to pull up Philip Grubauer real quick because I'm curious about this. Yeah, so he signed a 6-year contract with Seattle. He's in year 4 of that contract.
Okay. How has he done in Seattle?
Let me look at his stats. So he's played 13 games this year. He's 3-10, 3.63 goals against average, 877 save percentage. So,
my lord,
I mean, he's been bad in Seattle since he got there. He has not had one season with over a 900 save percentage.
How the fuck did they make the playoffs with him? That is crazy.
He actually played pretty okay for them in the playoffs.
Okay.
Because he did beat his old team in the first round that year.
And they were in overtime game 7 away against Dallas in the second round from moving on.
Yeah, his last year in Colorado, he's 30-9.
And
195 goals against average, 922 save percentage. So he had a very good season, and they let him walk. He left in free agency. They trade a first-round pick for Darcy Kemper that next year, and they win the Stanley Cup with Kemper.
I can see why he got the bag from Seattle, though.
Oh, he was
Genuinely.
great. I remember people were very surprised when Seattle signed. He went to an expansion team that he knew wasn't going to be great their first year. But,
And
I mean.
Bang! Making the playoffs, and now Seattle's been completely mid since then.
Yeah, Seattle's in a weird place right now.
They are refusing to just.
I think.
Is rebuilt the right word?
Well, they're still building.
Yeah.
I know they made the playoffs a couple years ago, but I would say that it was more of a fluke.
They overexceeded expectations.
I mean, Benny Beniers had a really good rookie year, and I think that helped elevate the team, and Grubauer not being complete ass.
Yeah.
But, you got to remember, I think Vegas being so good right off the bat kind of made us change our expectations for Seattle. Because what Vegas has done is still unprecedented, and I think in almost any sport.
It's never happened in NHL history. That's
and
for sure.
almost any pro sport in general, just making the championship your first year of existence, winning a cup within your first 6. Most teams takes 6 or 7 years just to be a playoff team, let alone a league champion. Which it's so, kudos to Vegas. Still what they did and what to this day is incredible. Building a winner right off the bat. I mean, teams. It was the first expansion in the NHL in a long time. I think teams made mistakes in trades with Vegas. They gave them a lot of good players for really nothing. And they went out and they're not afraid to spend money or make big trades. And in Seattle's case, they had a much weaker pool of players, I think, to choose from in the expansion draft. Teams learned not to make the same mistakes that they made with Vegas in that expansion draft, so they didn't really make any crazy trades where they got a good player for next to nothing just to eat a bad contract or something like that. And so they're kind of doing it the old-fashioned way for an expansion team where you got to, you're going to be kind of bad or not great, middle of the pack, or you have to draft well and, build a winner from the inside out. And, because they're starting from nothing.
Yeah.
Not every team like Vegas, like I said, set a very unfair expectation, I think, for Seattle. Just look at the expansion draft results from Vegas's and Seattle's, and just the difference in players available.
It's not, and expansion teams back then when in 1970.
Well, they were destined to fail.
They were, dude. These teams would get off to horrible starts. We're talking about
I think the worst team in NHL history might have been Washington Capitals' first year of their existence. I think they won.
Wins.
Yeah, they were. I think they were the worst expansion team ever in a pro sport.
Yeah. So, what Vegas did, unprecedented. Should be expected from Seattle. Expectations are fine. I think they're building it slowly but surely. I think they're getting there. You have Wright, who's emerging. You signed Stevenson. You have Beniers.
I mean, they traded for Capo Caco, which I think was a good trade. I think Ron Francis is trying to do it the right way.
I think he's doing a pretty solid job. You have McCann, who's your best goal scorer by far. And the only problem that
that was one of the good players they did get in the expansion
him
draft
and
through
Eberle.
from a trade for like.
Okay.
Because I think he was on the Penguins, and Toronto traded for his contract rights.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they traded the pick to Seattle to make them take Jared McCann because they didn't want to lose another player.
And now here we are. McCann's a 30-goal scorer. And
I don't know. It was either he was on the Maple Leafs and he got traded to Pittsburgh and it was an expansion draft thing, or it was the other way around. I know he was involved with Toronto at some point. I think they might have drafted him actually. Toronto.
I honestly have no idea.
I'm not looking too deep into that. I'm not pulling out my phone for that one, but that was one of the players they did end up, I think, getting in it was like an expansion draft considerations trade for them to take him in the draft.
The thing with Seattle, before I end things off here, is I was looking into the roster with one of my coworkers at work. They have 3 number 2 centers right now. I guess you could say Shane Wright's like a 2B type of thing.
Yeah.
But like I think Beniers and Stevenson are both second-line centers, and one of them has to be a first-line center. That's the one thing that Seattle doesn't have compared to all these other really good teams, is that bona fide number 1 center.
Yeah, I think they were expecting Beniers to make a bigger leap from year 1 to year 2 than he did. I think he kind of took a step back, I'd say, his second year. They still gave him the long-term contract, which teams weren't I remember the word around the league was Seattle wasn't really sure what to do, whether to give him a long-term deal and pay for what you think you might be getting out of him or give him a bridge deal. They end up giving him the long-term deal. I think they're paying him just under $8 million a year. It's like somewhere in the $7 million range, which I think is a fair contract for him. I think Shane Wright still has that potential to be a 1C. Stevenson, I thought, was a good move in free agency to be a bona fide 2C, and I think they were going to that expecting Beniers to be better, which he hasn't been. They bring in Brandon Montour in the offseason. I think goaltending still a little bit of sign of concern. I know Decor's been pretty good, but Grubauer's not good.
He hasn't been good. No.
So Seattle, they're in a weird spot right now where they're not good enough to make the playoffs, but they're not horrible.
And they're not panicking either. They're just working with what they have right now with their limited assets.
They're doing it the way a typical expansion team does. Like, they're not the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't think we'll ever see another team like the Vegas Golden Knights.
Seattle's fine right now where they are, being a 75-point team. They'll be okay. We'll see them in the playoffs in another 3 years, 4 years, something.
I don't even know if it's that long. I think if the prospects to keep developing, I think if Shane Wright becomes anything of what close he can be, Capo Caco might bounce back. I think there's still plenty of room for Beniers to grow. I think they got to start adding some defenders.
Who did they take in the? They took Tijagila, or no, that was Utah.
Utah took Tijagila.
Who did Seattle take? They didn't know.
Genuinely no clue.
I'm gonna check.
In the draft last year, I have no freaking clue who they took.
They took Berkeley Cotton, however you pronounce it.
Okay.
So, and that's another center right there. So who knows? Maybe their center depth's gonna go kind of crazy in a couple years. I mean, you'll have 4 centers right there with Wright, Stevenson, Beniers, and
I think Tijagila might have been an option for them if he would have felt it.
I
think Tijagila kind of went earlier than people thought he was going to go.
Yeah, he went to Utah, and I thought he was going to be borderline top 10, maybe definitely inside the top 13. I was shocked.
I thought he was going to fall to Calgary. I thought it was in the stars that he was going to be a Flame.
If he was there, I bet you Calgary would have taken him.
You have a chance to draft the son of the best player in your franchise's history.
And a good line in the WHL played great hockey. So, I mean,
I think they did okay with Zane Pareca, so.
They did. I think they did more than okay.
I think that kid will be good.
Yeah, he'll be a great offensive defenseman for them. It's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are down below, as well as the subscribe button. If you guys are listening on Apple and Spotify, head over to YouTube for more exclusive content. Subscribe there, and we'll see you guys in our next episode.